For today's video, I will speak about my 3 locks and 3 avoids for when Supercoach opens. For everyone's favourite line, the forward line. Always a very difficult one. But before I speak about that, if you are interested in, or you want to speak BBL with other people, I think we get about 2,000 messages a night of just in live chat of the BBL in our Discord. So link is in the description, so feel free to join that if that's for you. But back on topic, the forward line, it's kind of difficult. Over the years, I've tried to pick as least forwards as possible, generally because the defenders, we have quite a few safe options. Midfield, we have a lot of great options in the midfield, so you pick them, you can't go wrong, and then you let the forward line figure itself, because they all have a lot of durability issues, uncertainty of their role. Some of them getting older, so they're playing a bit more forward, so you're not exactly sure what's going on. So but nonetheless, I think we'll start with the 3 locks, I think. And this one will be a shock to a lot of you. My first lock is Josh Dunkley. So 540 to 560k, somewhere around there. I am slightly concerned about his shoulder, because he definitely, when he came back, his final series, the numbers he put up in the final series were good, even though the grand final, for some reason, he got 0 mid-time after half-time, I think. I think that could have been useful, but nonetheless, that's another story. But yeah, again, started the season as, I think he was the highest scoring player over the first 5 weeks or so, something like that, at least top 3. So for me, it's too dangerous to forgo Josh Dunkley. Probably top 3 contested ball winner in the league. Yes, there are concerns, but I still think the ceiling is too high with Dunkley. We get a good preseason. Hopefully, we hear that he's fully over that shoulder as well, because definitely, when he came back, definitely wasn't 100%. And probably had to spend a little bit more time than usual forward. So, I'm locking Dunkley at F1, and then, yeah, for me, it gets tougher from there anyway. But I understand why Dunkley might be difficult, given his 2 injuries the last 2 years. There's no soft tissue injuries, it's just been pretty bad incidents. So, is it a trend now? Is it just bad luck? I'm not sure. Probably a combination of both. I don't know, but big fan of Dunkley, and if he gets injured, whatever, sell him for 650. But fingers crossed he doesn't. So anyway, my second lock is, this player will be around 300k, I think, 290. Steven Canelio. That's with the 10% discount anyway. So Canelio, apparently he's training really well in the preseason, which is all you really want to hear at this point. Is he a premium? I think he'll go close. It just depends on how the Giants want to use him, because they have a lot of young mids coming through. We'll get to Toronto later, by the way. But does he play midfield? Does he play forward? Well, I think he'll score enough to outscore his price point if he plays, 50-50 mid and forward. So for his price, for preseason, obviously he needs to have a good preseason. I think it's too hard to not pick Canelio. He's averaged over 90 6 or 7 times, I think, something like that, and a few of those over 100. So Canelio, cheap, low risk, high reward, will have high ownership, I think. So happy to pick him. What I will say, and also it's just been announced that he's captain, I believe. I'm not sure if it's official, but journalists, I think Mitch Cleary said that they're going with 3 captains, but it's worth noting that he actually hasn't played good football. I had him in Supercoach the past 2 years, I think. I traded him in... No, not this year, but the year before. Actually, I've owned him 3 times out of the past 4 years. So, with Canelio, his form is not good. He's not playing well, and he's not someone... his disposal has been horrific. Decision-making, he panics with the ball. Maybe he's got a lot of pressure on him, plus injuries. He's just not coping. So... hopefully gets a full run at it, but I am slightly worried about Canelio. I just need to see him recapture that form, and I think we put it down to some serious injuries that have happened to him. But yeah, a lot of mids coming through, so we'll get a gist of how many CBAs he gets in the preseason. My third lock, it's hard to pick locks in the forward line at the moment, because I don't like a lot of these picks, but I think Elijah Hollins is the one. So he's a mid forward. He'll be 123k. I think his first game back for the VFL, or his most recent game in the VFL, 27 touches off an ACL injury. So high pick. Probably if he didn't do his ACL in his draft year, from what I saw of him, I watched a lot of highlights of him. I did invest in that draft because Crows had a number 1 pick. Really impressed with Hollins. Great ball user, tall, damaging by foot. Think he'll be that inside mid. He says he models his game on Bontempelli, so needs to put on some size. I've seen pictures of him in the preseason. Definitely needs to put on some size, but just far too talented and has extra in the system now. So been training for a while, even though was fairly limited last year. So Elijah Hollins for the Gold Coast Suns, lock him in. I think had he not done his ACL, I think he would have gone top 3 easily. So lock him away. So my 3 avoids. I wish I could go on for the next 20 minutes because I hate a lot of these options. But my first avoid is, as I brought up a few moments ago, is Tim Taranto. Now, how could Tim Taranto? He's probably one of the more durable ones, apart from I think he did his shoulder 2020. But nonetheless, so Taranto, it's very simple why he's an avoid. If you were paying attention in the last few games, I'll just bring him up now. His CBAs in the last month were, not including finals, 11%, 7%, 76, and 0. So the 76% CBAs, Josh Kelly was out, and Tom Green was also out. So they had no midfield that game. So they put Taranto back in the midfield, and as soon as Josh Kelly came back, he went back forward. So he actually scored okay out forward, apart from one game, but it's not a sustainable scoring way of scoring if you're playing a lot of minutes forward. So unless you're Tom Hawkins and possibly Isaac Heaney as well, you're not going to score a whole lot when you're playing permanent forward. So does that continue? Well, Toby Green's out for the first few weeks. I'm not sure how many. I know he got suspended for 6, but I can't remember how many he missed. So first few weeks, no Toby Green. A little bit of a concern. I can already see people having meltdown. Oh, Leon Cameron put Taranto in the midfield. Well, the warning signs were there at the end of last year, or at the end of 2021. So for that reason, unless we get some indication that he's going to play full-time mid, then maybe, but his ceiling is not high enough to hurt you anyway. He's an AFL fantasy pick, not a Supercoach pick. But in the forward line, if he's playing full-time mid, or at least 50% mid, I think he'll be a good option in the forward line for us in Supercoach. But how much are they going to put him forward? I don't want to stress over this. I'll let it figure itself out, because again, his ceiling's not high enough because his disposal and claim account is far too high. Kills the Supercoach score, so he won't hurt you that bad if you don't have him. If he plays midfield, but yeah, better to wait and see on Taranto. Pretty simple. My second avoid is Adam Treloar. So what's interesting with Treloar is he did that double hamstring a few years ago, then played 22 games, then 2020 for Collingwood, he had quite a few issues, had a few more hamstring issues. 2021 preseason had a calf issue, finally got back, limited preseason, and did a syndesmosis, so never really got going. But when he plays, and maybe the grand final will make him better realise that he needs to be put more in the midfield. So he will score when he plays with a full preseason. It's just a durability risk. And I still think, he doesn't need massive mid-minutes to score as a forward premium. I don't see the 110 average anymore in the Dogs, given the Dogs setup. But I think he can have premium output scoring, but again, how many hamstrings and plus the calf issue? With a full preseason, it could be interesting, but there's too many soft tissue injuries here for me to consider him. So generally, I'd prefer to take risks on players that have contact injury history than soft tissue injury. Just soft tissue injury is more likely to reoccur. So yeah, there's some hypocrisy there. Obviously, I'm speaking about Josh Dunkley, who's had a few injuries, but I see Dunkley is more durable than Treloar at this point. So it's mostly just a durability thing, but I actually think he's a good upgrade target and he will score. Just when we get him in, we would only need him for less games, so the durability risk is probably lowered. So, and maybe he misses a few games here and there. Then we jump on him. So, not one I'm willing to start with. Can see him scoring okay. Maybe 95 to 100, given the dog setup. Could be possibly more, but yeah, too many hamstrings and calves. It's just too much, I think. So for me, I'll pass on Treloar. With a full preseason, I can understand the pick though. I'm not totally against it, but not one I will start even with a full preseason. My third avoid is Timothy No Speaker English. So Tim English is a ruck forward. This is a pretty simple one. He's not a ruckman. So I remember late in the season, the Dogs needed to win one game to make the top 4. They choked 3 games in a row. They persisted with, I think some of those games, the game was on the line, and they persisted with Lockie Young instead of throwing Tim English into the ruck, which shows how little faith they have in Tim English as a ruckman. So, but it seems to be he's not really a ruckman. He's your support ruckman, not your main ruckman. So maybe not physical enough, I guess. He's still a good player and really good around the ground in the ruck. Could possibly even play on a wing. But I think they like him forward. I think sounds like he wants to play forward. Yes, he's a ruck and forward, which looks nice, and he will score if he's playing ruck by himself. But yeah, I think they want Jordan Sweet to play a few more games. So in the ruck, I think the trade period they probably should have got Segler. But yeah, I'd be very surprised if they rely on English to solo ruck, given what's happened in 2021. So those are my 3 locks and avoids. Other avoids that I won't start with, Duncan. I think it'll be an okay pick. Butters possibly too many injuries last year. I don't know, but maybe we'll see. Actually, I'll just leave it at the 3. So my 3 locks: Josh Dunkley, Cornelio, Elijah Hollins. My 3 avoids: Treloar, Taranto, Tim English. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.